Thank you. Well, now we will simulate what happens. I'm the chairman of a company. I'm coming into the minister's office, and I bring 3 colleagues, my lawyer, my analyst, and my banker. And I say, we're ready to come in, but my people are going to be asking you questions. And this is how it works, because mining is based on capital market. To develop a mine is 5 to 10 years. It's 10 million to 500 million. It's skills, it's engineering, it's geology, but it's money. So I need a banker who's going to give me money. I need an analyst who will tell the market that he agrees with the quality of the asset. And I need my lawyer to tell me that I own the asset. This is how it starts. This is how I started a company 17 years ago and where we are today. So I turn over to these guys now, and you've seen the presentation. Nana, you're the analyst. Maybe you want to start with your first question to the minister. And minister, you can take the other mic, and you don't need to stand up.
Thanks, Benoit. So this question to the Honorable Minister. It looks like a lot has been done on the surveys. How easy, accessible are these surveys to the ordinary investor? I mean, the geochemical data and the geophysical data that's been compiled.
Should be on.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think some of the issues, because of the time of the presentation, when the professor was doing his presentation, he made mention of the company that acquired most of this geological data for us. We currently have a memorandum of understanding with them to take up the responsibility of disseminating this geological data and many more, like our legal framework, our regulatory framework, are all part of the things that they will have to do for us. And why we did that is because we realize the need. One of the needs of doing business currently is for you to be able to access information from where you are more comfortable, which is highly likely to be your office. And so this is why we are making this. I'm sure the professor would have been in a better position to say how far they have gone with them, which I'm sure they have gone quite far in this. So apart from the current effort, which we term to be a bit slow, we try to get information across to our embassies, and we have websites that you can access this. But we felt if you can go to an expert website where you're looking for information generally on others, it is highly likely that you will stumble on our own information also, and that in itself will be an added advantage to us. So apart from our own websites, we are already making an arrangement with Fugro to put this information out to investors on our behalf so that it can easily be accessible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I would like to ask my lawyer if he's comfortable, and what would be his question to the Honorable Minister?
Thank you, Benoit. First of all, I'd like to thank the Honorable Minister for being with us today and getting a chance to discuss mining in Nigeria. We are truly honored to have you with us here. I've actually looked at your mineral legislation, and from what I can tell from a high level, it meets all of the check marks that you look for in mineral legislation. But as you know, it's one thing to have the law in paper or on paper, it's another thing to implement the law. So I would have a couple of questions. In terms of the implementation, if we were to apply for mineral permit, how long would it actually take? First question. Second question would be, what kind of protection would be available to my client should he invest in your country?
Thank you very much. I think for the first one, the issue of mineral title administration. This current government in Nigeria, when we come in, some of the issues we first tried to tackle is the implementation of the law that has been passed since 2007. And in the law, one of the very first clauses of the law is that there should be a kind of a document that will come in to implement that law in form of regulations. Those regulations were not there. So the first and most important thing that we did as a government when we come into power is to make sure that that regulation is in place for it to be used. And one of the requirements of the law actually was that mineral title administration should be taken out of the normal government bureaucracy. And in our own government system, the best way to do that is to have an agency that is body corporate to administer the mineral title administration. This we are able to put in place. For instance, for certain mineral titles, right up to exploration license, is a responsibility of that. Nothing takes you into the bureaucracy of government to be able to have that. So the law in itself have already clearly mentioned those things that need to be done to make mineral title acquisition very easy. The regulations now come say from application to the point you get your exploration license, it should not be more than 40 days. If it is going to be more than 40 days, you should be told why. Maybe your submissions and other issues that you need to address. So, and this is clearly done. In fact, the agency itself was asked to prepare a small document, which I think some of it are in our booth there, that if you pick a small pamphlet, it will tell you from the moment you apply for a title, all those things that you need to put in place, all the time it will take from one step to the other. And at the end of the document, it says, if you do all these things and still having problem, then you write a petition to the minister. Those are some of those are the points where now you will have an interface with the minister. But if you follow all those, because those guidelines were actually approved by the minister to be so. So if you follow them and you're not able to get what you want to get, then you petition the minister. This is the last statement in this. So these are some of the things we try to do, and we publicize them. If you go into the mining cadastre office, the first thing you pick up is that booklet. And you'll be advised to study it before you go in to do business with this. And going in there, you see there is a large sign that will tell you the major code of business making. The first is first come, first serve. If you get in there, the first thing you do is you register your presence down to the last minute that you're there, so that your own area of interest that you declared will now not be taken by anybody that comes behind you until you agree that, look, you are no more interested, then nobody will, just for being there ahead of you. And the next one will say, come one, come all. The law does not have any preference for being a Nigerian. We look at investors in the same guise. The reason here is because government took the decision that the mining sector should be private sector driven. Government should sit back, regulate and administer the activities of the sector. As the result of which, if you are coming to do business as a Nigerian or a non-Nigerian, going into the cadastre office, you have the same status. This is clearly made to you. But then there is a third one, which says when you take a mineral title, you must use it or lose it. So these are the three things that you will meet. You will get a guideline in form of a pamphlet, and then you will see the basic principles of doing business with the office when you get there. Now, the issue, these are also going down to answer your second question about, being sure that you own the title and the security of it itself. I think some of the reasons why we did this is our own understanding, because we consult widely with stakeholders, with operators, with investors in the sector. And we found the security of title is one very important thing that people hold dear. So we try to do all those things that we sure will confirm to you this. And these are issues that, at every point in time, you are advised on what to do and what not to do. And at the end of the day, I think one of the more assuring thing is if one follows through with the current legal system in the country, one of the things the government does is to respect very, very strongly the opinion of the judiciary, because we believe that's where you get people to be confident in the things that you do. There is an arbiter out there who will be able to dictate the rights and wrongs of actions that are taken by government and its principals. So I think these are areas that I believe really will confirm to you that we're out for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this excellent answer and a very, very important answer. So now for the $5,000 question. My lawyer says we're fine. The analyst says it's okay. Let me ask my banker, can I raise money? Because I will need to raise 10 to 500 million to get and that's talking about gold and precious metal. If I'm talking base metal, I need to raise 2-3 billion. Can I raise the money? Alex, can I raise the money? And if you have a comment and you want to ask a question, because at the end of the day, mining is capital intensive and you need your banker to be with you. Otherwise, if you're by yourself, you'll do like many, and that's why you have a get the permit and use it, because most people get the permit and hold it, which is wrong for an industry. You have to get it and use it. So Alex, can I raise the money?
Sure. Thanks, Benoit, and thanks, Your Excellency. I think the biggest driver in business is scarcity and momentum, and to the extent you get sponsorship, that's the big key, and I think it starts with boots on the ground locally. So you have a beautiful fund called the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Fund. To the extent you get sponsorships starting within, and then you build abroad, leading at home. So my question to you is, what sort of help can I get on boots on the ground at home in Nigeria before we go tap investors, Goldman Sachs, UBS, whatever? We empower someone like Benoit, which is fantastic. He can run the mining company, but how do we, he needs capital at home, and then we build from afar.
Thank you very much. I think some of the comfort that likely to have first, maybe starting very low, is quite a lot of Nigerians themselves are interested in activities in the mining sector, and I think this is one level that one will always want to do. This is why we encourage as much as possible some kind of joint ventures, because local knowledge is very important, and I think the biggest one that you can get is the commitment of the government. As you can see, it's basically history making when we sign a protection agreement right from the start to the conclusion of it within 2 months. It shows how much government is committed to receiving foreign direct investment and is willing to protect it. I think this is what is most important is the commitment of government. And when you have the government committed and has a high respect for its judicial system, and it has a policy that it wants to drive development and investment in a specific area, I think this put together, you can get a better comfort for doing business and that.
And on a follow-up question, have you seen internally some of the pension funds investing into the mining sector yet, or not yet?
Yes, because I can say yes, because I'm sure even in the crowd here we have the top management of a Nigerian company that is a mining company in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Mm-hmm. So I think that is enough to this. It's a quoted company. I think in the last its register is about 9,000 subscribers to its shares, because they just did their AGM not too long ago, and in fact is expanding, because I knew at the beginning of the year they were able to take additional leases to do business. So I think with that is a testimony enough to show that such investors have confidence in the mining sector.
Thank you. My friends, any other question? Alex?
I just wanted to say, here in Canada, we to the extent we're highly entrepreneurial, but what's amazing is we have a free market where, You know, we cobbled together some money, and I'll draw, you know, whether it's SEMAFO, and I can draw, I mean, there's a huge energy sector in Nigeria, but we had a company called Western Oil Sands, and the biggest supporters were domestic. And it was a struggle, and it was a $20 oil. And local finance stepped in, infused capital, and then ultimately was sold to Marathon for close to $7 billion. What's amazing, though, is you have the entrepreneurial spirit, and you have the same people, like Benoit's doing now in West Africa, seeding companies, getting local support, and then taking that local support, branding it, and going abroad to New York, London, and Asia, Singapore. It starts from within, and then once you get the support from within, it's exponential. So it's exciting. Thank you.
So you're telling me that if we go in, with a little bit of support from the local funds, we'll have the support from the international communities. That's what you're telling me.
You got it.
You got it. Thank you. Nana, any...
Thanks, Benoit. So a couple of follow-up questions here. So it appears that the mineral industry, as we see it now, could be a new frontier. I've been doing this for about 10 years. I've been to a lot of West African countries. I've never visited Nigeria to do any due diligence on a project. And I think people would see that as a sign. I mean, guys in the industry might attribute that to the fact of the absence of opportunities. Is there a possibility, in addition to the data that you collating, to present some of the historical activity that occurred in the industry? Because I know before the insurgence of the oil industry, there was some sort of gold mining and stuff like that. But I spent some time trying to dig up some of the data on the internet, and I mean, I was not lucky at all. Could you shed more light to the historical activities, please?
Yes, I think quite a lot. Maybe the reason why you are not able to dig up any of this information in the internet is because of our system. When Nigeria was doing well in mining, the government itself has a mining company, the Nigerian Mining Corporation. When it decides to go in line with global best practices whereby government regulates and allow the private sector to take, it decides to privatize most of its mining, almost all its mining assets. And what we do is that government already has an organization that is responsible for selling off government assets, no matter which sector it belongs. And this is the Bureau for Public Enterprises. And most of these assets were actually transferred directly to them. So where you can find the information is actually in the website, not under the website in the mining sector, because they are termed as government assets due for privatization. We do make inputs when it comes to negotiations and when interests are shown on some of these assets, but it's there. They have we have the Nigerian Mining Corporation, we have the Nigerian Coal Corporation. These assets are up. Currently, quite a number of companies have taken up this interest and are working further on them. So these are really the ones where you find the legacy issues as far as mining is concerned in the country. But what we try to do, because we realize that anybody wanting to do business is likely to look within the sectors is for us now to start bringing back that information into our own sector. So I'm sure if you check the website of the Nigerian Mining Cadastre Office, you will see some of these assets listed as due for privatization or due for bidding. These are the ones. We also have the bitumen project. This has been a long-going government project that at a point decided to stop and sell everything off for investors to do. And currently, quite a number of companies are in discussion with us. So these are really some of the areas that you can look at. When you look, you surely see some of this. In fact, a few of the assets have actually started coming to the level where they are already considering production. So I think the information is there. It's just that because of the way the system runs, you will have to look somewhere else to be able to get the information of that. And I think, if I may add, in terms of local support for funds in the edition, the Nigerian government took a decision at a point in time to say that of the resources, of the revenues of government, it is taking out a certain small percentage and keeping it aside to develop the mineral sector. It said it called the natural resource sector, which means minerals and agriculture. This is a fund that is there, and the reason why the fund is not yet being implemented is because a lot of the work that we are doing now need to be concluded before we can. So there is that support. And in fact, currently there is already established a board. The board for the Solid Minerals Development Fund is already in place. And this is just to support investors with the local resources that they can use in doing their projects. And this board is currently being supported by our development partners. The World Bank, SIDA, DFID are all behind this to be able to give them a framework within which to operate for the benefits of investors that are coming into the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this answer. And just before we close, as time goes quickly, Daye, would you like to have a comment, a final comment from our panel?
Well, actually, I'd just like to make a comment. My comment is, a lot of people have come here today and wondered why Nigeria is not doing better in terms of the mining. There's a lot of deals being done in Africa in places close to Nigeria, like Niger, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, and places further out like the DRC, etc. And I think that Nigeria has put in place the right policy in terms of security of tenure. They're putting data out there for investors in terms of geological data. Those are the two key factors. Investors want to know about geological prospectivity and security of tenure. So in that regard, from my standpoint, it looks like Nigeria is certainly moving in the right direction. I like to think a little bit outside the box. When I look at Nigeria, Nigeria has assets that other African countries don't have. There's a big population, there's a lot of capital, and there's a stock market, which is a lot more significant than a lot of other places in Africa, except for the JSC, of course. I know there's been examples in the oil and gas sectors of indigenous companies growing locally, so to your point, Alex, and then eventually coming to, for instance, the Toronto Stock Exchange. I think Owendo, who was a sponsor of this event, is one of these examples. I think there's an opportunity in Nigeria for that, where there may not be a similar opportunity in other places in Africa. The question is whether investors who are very familiar with oil and gas in Nigeria would actually invest in a mining venture as opposed to an oil and gas venture at this stage. But I think that's a very interesting opportunity. I think that's a competitive advantage available in Nigeria that's not necessarily available in Senegal or Burkina Faso. It's done very well, but it certainly doesn't have that internal market. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Well, thank you to all of you for this great session. I know it's too short, and mining is fascinating and takes a lot of time. Let me tell you that mining is a herd system. Is once you have one discovery in natural resources, everybody comes. When I went into Burkina Faso in 1995, we obtained permit number 3 on the mining side. The third permit. There were 2 other permits not being worked on. And we obtained 1 permit. And by 1998, we had made a world-class discovery Today in Burkina Faso, following that discovery, you have 700 companies working in exploration. You have 8 mines in production. You have 800 companies waiting for permit to be issued, and it represents 60% of the GDP. Now, it's a smaller country, it's your neighbors and friend, but one discovery made all the difference in the world. And one large discovery in gold, like in Mauritania, when Redback discovered Tazias, has created a movement in this country where now we have massive exploration, a capital investment that was announced this week of $3 billion, and a lot coming. So for Nigeria, I think everything's been done correctly, the legal system's in place, and we will be working and with our friends here in Toronto, because Toronto with Johannesburg are the 2 centers of mining, and London would kill me if they heard me, but London, Johannesburg, and Toronto, but Toronto is much more entrepreneurial, whereas London is much more larger companies. But the people who drive the mining sector around the world and start the mining sector are the Australians, and they are there, and the Canadians. And hence, I think it's the right steps are in place. You've done very good work. I think it's a great area. Geology is fantastic. And now with Nana and the team and everybody here, if everybody's on side, and Toronto decides that they like Nigeria on the mining side, I think it will be history, and this conference will be maybe the starting day of Canadians moving in heavily into Nigeria, and Alex making millions of dollars financing them, and Nana covering them, and our lawyers, well, they charge per hour, but they keep charging us every time we do a deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I could not give the small paper to Benoit because he's my boss, the chairman of the board for the CC Africa, so I had to be very careful. But I still stood very close to him. So thank you very much. Now, I would like anybody who is interested by the urban development to stay in the room. We're going to start with David Miller, the session right away. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And I'll ask David and others to come up. And we'll start the session right away because we're only 10 minutes late, so it's really good. So at 12:30, we'll have the lunch. A couple of things you should know. Those who have business class, the lunch is on the 18th floor. The rest is over here. And don't forget that during the lunch, maybe you can take a stroll in the back. There's all of those exhibitors, about 25 of them. They'll be very pleased to see you. So please stay in the room for those who are staying for urban. And those who are looking for the health sector, it's right on the other side of Ontario. Let's make sure we move fast because we only have 55 minutes left. I thank you very much for your collaboration.